This is one of those episodes that is just inward focused. I just want to talk about something that's, as I sit here and I do a little bit of self reflecting. Nothing crazy, right? It's not like I'm at a finish line of anything in life that I go, like, let me just sit back and think about my journey. But I do find myself sometimes looking at how I got to where I'm at, because if the 14-year-old, 15-year-old Jay could see me now, all these years later, I think he would be real shocked about where we landed.
Hey, I'm committed to change things I learned growing up, but you don't have to wait. Sorry, baby, I'm falling.
When I turned 25 years old, one of the things that I did was I sat down on my couch and I set up a video camera and I looked into it and I started talking. There was no plan in my head of where I wanted to go with what I was talking about. It was just one of those free-form things where it was like, whatever comes to your mind, just say it. Whatever you feel about what happened in the past 25 years of life, whatever you feel about the next 25 years of life, just put it on camera. Because 25 was the first age that I actually felt. 21 was cool because you got to drink, but we was already drinking before that. 18 was cool, but only because now I didn't have to go to school. 25 was the first age where I looked up and I was like, oh shit, like I'm an adult. What am I doing with myself? Where am I going? Am I taking active steps towards accomplishing something? And I don't know what it is. I mean, I feel like that age is different for a lot of people. Some people it hits younger. Some people it hits way later. But 25 was that age for me. But as I was thinking about like what I wanted to talk about next on Stand On Business, and there's just so much in the world right now that we could talk about. Nothing was really getting me excited. You know, nothing like the first 48 episodes was getting me ready to jump up and like, yo, I got to talk about this. And so that's why I haven't released an episode. That, and I've been writing a lot. And the writing's been exciting me more than recording anything. But in one of my self-reflecting journeys, I was looking back on my educational path, because something new, relatively new, has happened for me when it comes to education. And it just got me to thinking, like, if 14-year-old, 15-year-old Jay could look back or look ahead and see where I'm at now, how disappointed or excited or confused would he be on what's happened to us? I look back at high school, right? So I went to high school. I went to 3 different high schools. Let's start there. And I can't say if this is the normal path for a lot of military kids. I feel like maybe moving once in high school would be more normal, more typical, because you look at a military kid's life, you're typically moving anywhere from every 3 to 4 years, right? So I had been in Germany for 3 years by the time I became a freshman. I moved there for my 7th grade year, 7th, 8th, got to 9th grade. So 9th grade should have been the year after 9th grade, should have been the year that I moved and should have done sophomore, junior, and senior year at one school, which really isn't that bad. Like starting your high school journey in your sophomore year and, you know, kind of going through it with the same kids, like that should work out for most individuals, which is why I don't think that's too bad a system. But I always look back and go, like, if you're in the military and you have kids, or if you're a military kid, don't move that kid any more than once. Like if they've started their sophomore year, leave that kid at that school. Fight your damnedest to keep that kid in that school, because there's something about the structure of high school that just, it's better for the kid if they're surrounded with the same people as they go through that critical time in life and they build those important bonds. Not that everybody goes on to remember the kids that they went to high school with, but there are a lot of kind of life lessons that happen during those years that I think you miss out on when you're moving. Because moving, the thing about it is that you start over a lot, right? Depending on your mindset. If you're not an extrovert, and I wasn't, I was a quiet kid, you know, really, I was more comfortable staying to myself in the back than being out loud. I could be. You know, it's one of those introverts that, like, if you put the spotlight on me, I won't mind it, but I much prefer to stay in the back quiet. So when you're moving schools constantly and you're an introvert like me, you find yourself having to kind of start over and reassess who you are in this relation to everybody else. And that obviously gets harder and harder the older you get in a high school setting, because a lot of those mindsets and the cliques and the identities have been firmly established, and now you're the new person trying to break your way in, or in my case, just kind of like, yo, let me do my own thing, and nobody's really, for the most part, bothering you, including staff, like guidance counselors. So I can't tell you who my academic advisor was for 9th and 10th grade, which mainly probably is my fault. I just didn't take an active interest. And this is another thing. I was more of the guy that, like if you take a look at my parents, right, both are very, very serious about school. My mother was a school teacher, and was very serious about us being great readers and great writers. That was kind of her thing. And my father was more of like the disciplinarian of, you're going to get your classwork done and you're not bringing home anything below a C. Everything else, like, I don't care. I'm not on your ass to like necessarily figure out what you want to do in life, but don't bring home anything lower than a C, right? And turn in your classwork. So they were serious about school, but there was never any kind of over, what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't strict in the sense of like, you have to be this, or you need to study this, or these are what's important in school, which can be a pro and a con. And, that's not really what I'm here to kind of dissect today. But because of that kind of mindset, I was of the kind of the behavior of, hey, as long as I do my classwork, everything else will figure itself out, which meant that I never did the extra steps of going to talk to my guidance counselor, figuring out like how you get to college. Again, my mindset is I'm going to college no matter what, but I just figured it was something that was going to happen. Well, by the end of my 10th grade year, I left Wiesbaden and ended up having to go back to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which is where a majority of my family is from. And I went to a school called Watson Chapel, and I did my junior year and part of my senior year at Chapel. And that one, again, I think there was a guidance counselor there, but never once did I step into that office. Never once was I pulled aside and like, okay, let's take a look at your credits. Let's take a look at your academic journey and see what we can do to get you to the next level, or just figure out what path you're on. So I really coasted through that school as well. Then you fast forward to midway through my senior year, still at Chapel. My father came back from overseas, and he had gotten a house in Augusta, Georgia. And so I had a choice presented to me where I could stay and finish out my senior year in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, or I could go live with my brother and father, who I'd been with pretty much all my life. And I decided like school wasn't that important to me, and I could still do what I'd been doing, which was I was already accustomed to leaving schools and starting over. So what did it mean to start midway through your senior year at a new school, which looking back is just such a naive mindset, and just it's something that comes with just youth and not really thinking about what you're setting yourself up for. So I moved and I went to a school called Lakeside High for my last 3 months maybe. I literally got there, started school in January, and by April it's over with. You know what I'm saying? So January, February, March, April, and then that was done. So you look at my kind of high school journey: 9th, 10th, Wiesbaden High School; 11th, part of 12th, Chapel; and then my last 3 or 4 months, Lakeside High School. And it's funny when I look at my high schools and the variations of what you got to see, right? Wiesbaden High was a nice school with nice teachers, and they were kind of in the middle of a renovation and building new things. And a lot of my good friends were made there just because I had been in Germany so long and knew so many of the people. Then you transition to Chapel, which, I knew 1 or 2 people going there just because I'd been there, at the summer camps or going to visit my family down there. So I was fortunate that I had a few people, and then playing in the football team, I got to know a few more people. And that facility, that school is okay, but it's definitely not getting a lot of funding. It's not in a great part of America, you know what I'm saying? So and then you go from that to your senior year, you go to this really nice school. And this school, my dad had gotten a little money at this time. And so this school is very properly funded, and you can tell that the interest in setting these kids up for success was heavy. And this is actually the first time that an academic counselor had come to me and was like, they had to come to me, because at this point they're like, wow, you're moving here middle of your senior year and you're coming here with these different credits. We got to figure out, can you even graduate from our school? Can you meet our criteria? And they did. And it just required me to take a few extra classes and a few online classes. But this was the first time I actually sat down with somebody who was like, let's figure out where you're at. So anyway, at the end of those 4 months, as you can imagine, I was ready to go. I didn't know the people that was around. At this point, my extracurriculars had pretty much ceased. All the things that I had taken interest in early on in life, I just wanted to complete my studies and get the hell out. Again, of the mindset that college will be figured out. But what I didn't even take into account is moving partway through your senior year, you should have already applied for college. And this is a lot of the stuff that I didn't know at that age, just because, like I said, 9th, 10th grade year, I didn't really talk to anybody. Your 11th grade year is when you're really supposed to be putting those applications together. But I just moved to a new school that was, again, underfunded, small town. People kind of all end up going to either the same school or they end up working for their family business. So there's not a lot of interest in like, hey, how can we help you get to this next level if you're not in, a star in one of the football teams or the baseball teams. And then I moved partway to a school that is about that, but you're moving in with 4 months. Everybody's already applied to their schools and already getting their acceptance letters. So at this point, everybody's focusing is on, hey, how can we help this guy graduate on time with everybody? So April comes, I graduate with no issue. And now I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoa, I have no idea what I'm doing next. None. I don't know how to go to school. I have no idea what loans are, what scholarships are. I have no idea how to put together funds to go to a state school. I have no idea what the application process looks like. I've never even really looked at schools because, again, you're just kind of falling through the cracks, or you're falling into a rut of, it's another school, get through it. It's another school, get through it. So as I'm sitting at home and I'm like now kind of reeling from, I've graduated, now what? I literally got this diploma in the mail and it's time to figure out what you're going to do with your adult self. School's coming back around. It's about time for us to go to college and you're not going to college. You've got no school. I started working a part-time job at Michael's Arts and Crafts, and it was humbling as your friends are, packing up and they're getting ready to go to these big 4-year schools, and you're getting up at 2 a.m. to go open boxes and stock shelves at Michael's, which I was always thankful for the job because it was one of the first jobs that actually like brought me in and was willing to hire me and pay me. But like, it was brutal on the body to wake up at 2 a.m., go to work, stay there till about 6, driving home, falling asleep on the highway, on the roadways, like not even noticing that you're falling asleep because you're so damn tired. And then, just waking up in enough time to not be going over a bridge, or the rumble strips are getting you up. So I knew that I couldn't do this long term. So I did that for a few months. And at the same time, I was, a few hours away from Atlanta. And one of the things that I really loved, one of my passions at that time, was acting. I loved being in front of the camera. And so I would go down to Atlanta and I would do auditions, and I was making steady progress. I was getting bookings here and there, and I was getting like a little bit of buzz. The problem was these weren't paying gigs. And one of the bigger projects that I had gotten, I remember, was a movie called Full Moons and Looney Tunes. And it just never went anywhere. Like the funding got pulled or something. I don't know what happened, but I got cast and the movie just never came through. And that was kind of like the final gut blow for me, because I was having minor success, but not enough to come back to my father and say, hey, like, this could be a thing. Which I don't want to get it twisted. He believed in me. He was definitely all gung-ho for like, yo, go to Atlanta, make it happen. I've seen your work. I've seen the people's reception of you. I know that this can be a thing. But at the same time, it was like, you're not going to just lay up in my house like all black fathers. You're not going to lay up in my house and do nothing. So you're not just going to be here just waiting for the next audition. Like, you're either going to go get like a real job, or you're going to go to the community college. And so at that point, it's weird because I feel like I've never given up on myself. I've never given up on my dreams. However, I can look back now where I'm at in life and go, like, that young kind of innocent naivety that comes from being 18, 19, I definitely did. I think I lost faith in my abilities to accomplish whatever my dreams were, or I thought, you know what, I can put my dreams on a back burner and kind of go after something else that has tangible, beneficial, monetary compensation right now. Because even, again, I'm getting up at 2 a.m. to go work at stock. I'm not getting paid much, right? Like minimum wage. So I'm not, at the end of 2 weeks, I'm getting like $300 or something in my pocket. So I'm not making no money. So I wanted something real, right? I wanted to feel like I was actually being an adult. And that led me down the path of looking into what I thought I might be interested in, which was law enforcement, because I'd always felt like the safe bet for me was to go into a career field where I felt like I could help. In Georgia, you couldn't join the police academy until you were 21. I'm 19. I'm not waiting 2 years as a stalker with sometime auditions with my dad kind of not breathing down my neck, but like, well, all right, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So I'm thinking, you know what? My dad was in the military. Why don't I go in the military for a little bit? Do that. When I come out, I can go into law enforcement. Mind you, listen to what I'm saying. My plan at this point is go in the military, buy my time, get some experience, and then go in law enforcement. So you can tell, like, I've already kind of kicked aside trying to even figure out what I actually want to do in this world, right? I'd even kicked aside what I thought I wanted to do, which was work in the film and entertainment industry. Didn't even consider, like, hey, maybe try to figure out how to go to school out there. Maybe just pack up the car, drive out there, make something of it. It just didn't even cross my mind because I was so used to just new school, start over, nobody really taking interest in helping him figure out what he should be doing. And and I think it became one of those things where it was like, what's the easiest route to start making money, right? What's the easiest path that has logical next steps? So I ended up joining the military as a military police officer. And at that time, I don't know if it's still the case, the contracts were mandatory 5-year contracts. And this is, again, why I go back to self-reflection and the mindset thing, because when you're 18, 19, you think you know shit, right? You really think you have a grasp of the world. And I don't think I know shit now, but I know a little bit more than I did then. And at that age, I don't think I understood what 5 years really meant. Time passes by when you're young really slow. And like years, like it didn't mean it. It was just a number. And so the only thing I thought when I heard 5 years was, oh shit, I'm going to have a steady paycheck, right? I'm going to have a steady path for 5 years. I'm not taking into account that I'm 18 years old, fresh out of high school. Like literally every door is open for me if I'm just willing to do the research, do the work. And if there's somebody there to come in and be like, whoa, before you just give up 5 years of your life, young man, let's figure out if this is even something you really want to do. I'm just signing on the dotted line, which I feel like there's something real predatory about that, because it's just so easy to put your signature on a piece of paper and be like, yeah, here's 5 years. Now, before I get into this, I just want to say, like, I'm not bashing the military, because at the end of the day, the military did so much for me in my life personally, and like still to this day does so much for me. And it gave me so many experiences and firsts and friends and relationships that I could never be mad at it. I really can't. Like, it is a good step if there is nothing else going on for you, or if this is something you really want to do. And I don't want to spend too much time here because this isn't about my military journey. This is about the educational journey. I take a few classes here and there, and I start winding down towards the last of my my time, right? So I'm approaching my ETS date, which is like my fourth year. What would that have been? I had to do 5 years. So yeah, 4th year in, and we're approaching year 5, and I'm sitting in Korea, and I just remember sitting in this room, right? Now at this point, I'm 24 or about to turn 24. Remember, I went in at 19, so I've now been in it since I was 19 years old, going on 24 now. And I was sitting in this room in Korea, and my mindset was still, I'm going to get out, and I'm going to apply to an academy in, I think it was Texas. This is what I'm thinking. And then as I'm sitting in this room in Korea, and it's getting night, and the sun is setting, like, I swear it felt like old Jay, 18-year-old Jay, like, clicked back on. Kind of just slapped me awake and was like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you talking about? You're just going to get out after 5 years now and go in the military academy. Have you just like given up on like who you are as a person? Like the things that actually interest you? And I'll say this too. During my time in Korea, I met up with, well, y'all have seen him. If you watch any of the episodes of Stand On Business, my boy New. And we had clicked and we had bonded a bit. Not just because of the military, but because we had both been interested in the entertainment industry. So like that was something we talked about a lot. So I think having just, been with him and then, us talking about that had also reignited like that energy in me of like, yo, you now have the military's full backing that they're going to pay for you to go to pretty much any school if you can get into it. Why are you just so quick to just kind of like acquiesce, bend down, break down for life and just do the most kind of simple path forward? Not to say I wasn't interested in that. Like I said, I did want to help, but it was like you're so quick to just kind of throw away these other dreams that seem like it may be a little bit harder to achieve, that may require a little bit more extra effort for you, because you're either afraid of failure or because you're afraid of uncertainty. And so as I sat in that room, I was like, well, I don't know where that came from. I don't know when that happened. I don't know when that shift occurred, but I don't want to just go straight into a military academy. I did really want to go to college. I really thought I was going to go to college. Here I am at 24 and I have not been to college yet. So because of that shift, I started looking at schools and just like really on my own doing the research of like, what does it take to apply to these schools? And it again would have benefited me had I gone to counselors, because the military does offer you like guidance counselors, educational counselors to help you figure this out. But I've been so accustomed to being on my own and being independent, because every 3 years you're moving to a new school, and at some point, like, you start to shift your mindset. Like, I can remember the early days of school. For me, I was a little bit more outgoing. I made a lot of friends really quickly. But around 6th grade, when I moved to Germany, like, that completely shifted. I think the move finally did something in my mind where it wasn't as easy for me to just be the extrovert and just, like, start making friends. Like, I started going inward and being like, it doesn't really matter anymore. And, like, I can do things on my own and I don't need other people. And that mindset kind of stayed with me throughout life. So everything that I tackle, I try to do it on my own, which is just not a helpful thing, as we can see with me not going to seek help from guidance counselors or individuals who could have, like, helped me figure out in a better way what school I should be going to, what I should be pursuing. So I started looking up states that, like, I'd either been to before, or there was only really, I can remember in high school, there was a time, I think 9th grade, where they had us list like 4 or 5 dream schools that we want to go to. And I didn't really have any dream schools because I didn't have an association or an affinity to any school, because you're moving all the damn time. So you don't grow up like cheering for whatever your local team is, right? You don't grow up with a school in your backyard that everybody wants to go to, that your mom and pop went to. And both my mom went to college, but I can't even tell you where she went to college. And then my father went to college for a little bit in Pine Bluff, and then stopped, and then he joined the military. So there's no like alma mater that everybody's like, that's the school you got to go to. So I looked at Arizona because I went to elementary school and middle school, or part of middle school in Arizona. Looked up Arizona State. I looked up a school in Florida because my family was in Georgia, or my dad and my brother were in Georgia at the time. And then one of the dream schools that I had put down, the top one, was FSU. And the only reason I had put down FSU at the time was just because I remember looking at the campus online and being like, this is one of the most gorgeous campuses I had ever seen. Looking at that campus made me go like, oh, that's the college experience I want. Like, that to me was what college should have looked like. So I remember FSU, so I applied to FSU as well. And then I think I applied to UCF, which was in Orlando, just because randomly I was like, oh, who wouldn't want to go live in Orlando, right? Like, that just seems like a fun place to go check out. So again, you can tell, like, I had no concept of what schools I could get into, what schools were even out there, what was available to me. It was literally just kind of picking 3 random schools just to see what happened. So I finished the applications and I got accepted into, or let's start with this. FSU was the first one to hit me back, and they were like, we just can't tell based off your prior credit history if you would be able to excel at this school. So it wasn't a no, it was like, take some more credits and then reapply. Here's the thing, and this is what happens when you don't have somebody in your corner to teach you these things. When I applied to FSU, I had applied as a transfer student, because I didn't know that I could apply as a freshman. I had taken a few college courses in the military, and I'm thinking like, oh, that must mean I am a transfer student, right? So that's the one that I filled under, and that's when they were looking at my resume, and I had like 6 credits. They're like, we can't even tell like what your academic history is. Had I applied as a freshman, maybe I would have gotten it, maybe not, who knows? But I wish I had, again, somebody there who could have kind of coached me through that all on my own. That was my fault. ASU hit me back next, and they were like, yes, we're going to accept you, which, if you know ASU, and which one of the things that I love about ASU is that they're not here to exclude, they're there to pretty much accept almost everybody, right? There's like a 90% acceptance rate at ASU, and sure, it gets a bad rep for being a party school or whatever, but like, as far as, I mean, if you look at my background, yes, I ended up going to ASU, but what I experienced there were, really good teachers who were really interested in helping students succeed, and forget the whole party school stigma, or like maybe the academics aren't as good. The academics are as good as like anywhere else you make them. If you're willing to do the work that they assign you, then you're going to get a lot out of it. If you want to coast, you can coast. And if you want to just drink and have fun, you can drink and have fun. Anyway, ASU accepted me, and then also UCF accepted me. And I think both of them, I think ASU accepted me for the film program, and UCF accepted me for the psychology program, right? Which, because again, I still didn't know where exactly I wanted to focus my interest in. So how did I decide between UCF and ASU? Well, I was excited, first of all, that I had just gotten into college. I'm 24 years old, and this is the first time that like I've ever applied to a school and receiving the offer letter saying you're accepted. So I remember calling my dad and telling him like, hey, I'm going to school. I've changed my life plan. I'm going to go to college. And, he was excited, and I remember he was one of the first ones to make a post talking about the schools that I'd gotten into, and now it was just about deciding where I was going to go between the two. And what I did is I went and I asked my lieutenants, because obviously in the military they're the only ones who had been to college before, and I was like, hey, this is a school I got accepted into. What would y'all pick? And only one of them sticks in my mind all these years later, and he was a second lieutenant, and he was he was a real cool guy, real laid back guy, and he was looking at the schools and he was like, well, I don't know shit about UCF, right? But he's like, when I look back at my own college career, I wish I went to ASU just because of not good reason, but he was like, hey, it's a fun school, man. If you want to go out and have, a lot of fun, you go to ASU. That's what I know about it. So that really stayed with me because I just come off of 5 years of strict environment, being placed in leadership positions, leading teams. Korea, my entire time in Korea was basically being a leader. So I wasn't getting to like do the stuff that I wanted to do at 22, 23 years old, which was drink, have fun, go to parties. Literally left high school, and ever since I've just been an adult, I was ready to go have some fun. So when he said that about ASU, I was like, oh shit, it sounds like ASU. I'm moving to Arizona. 24 years old, I want to say at this point, either 24 or just turning 24, something like that, to go to ASU, and I know nobody. It never occurred to me that if you're gonna go to a different state and go to a 4-year college, that like you should probably know 1 or 2 people to just kind of give you the lay of the land, you know what I'm saying, help you figure out things. So I'm out there solo, which again is fine because I'm used to that from my military background. Being a military kid and starting over, I'm used to just like, hey, you move to a new place and you figure it out. And my one of the things that I used to do was I would find a sport. You join a sport team, football, baseball, whatever your interest is, and that's a quick way to make friends. The bonding through trauma or through activity. I didn't do that for some reason. Like my whole ASU experience was I went to the two welcoming ceremonies. One of them was for veterans, and I think one of them was just like a general admission type thing. And after that, I just went to class and I went home. And eventually, I did end up meeting some people, but not to the extent of what I wanted to do when I was at ASU. Because remember, my mindset was like, I'm about to go to ASU and I'm about to just drink and have fun for 4 years. Like even the academics, like I was serious about them and I wanted to get my degree, but I also just wanted to kind of get back to who I was before the military and kind of lose the strictness that had kind of been like put into me after 5 years of this mess. So I was ready to go and do the whole college thing. And like what I did not consider was 1, didn't know anybody out there. And 2, and this is the bigger one, is that I didn't recognize that 5 years was a long damn time. Remember I told you when I went in, I was like, I'll sign 5 years away of my life and not really put like value to what 5 years means. You went in at 19, 18, you're coming out at 24, 25. Now you're going to college, right? Well, what is college really full of, right? And obviously there's some diversity, especially in a school that's as big at ASU, but like the core concept of like what I wanted to do wasn't what a 24, 25-year-old was going there to do, right? Not traditionally, right? There was a few, but not mainly. You're really surrounded around a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds, right, who are fresh into college. And at the oldest, you're graduating at what, 21, 22? I had 3 years on those individuals. So I didn't feel old at 24, 25, but I felt old at ASU at 24, 25. And I can remember like one prime example was I was really big into the theater community at the time at ASU, right? I was auditioning for a lot of plays and the film community more so than the theater community, I'm sorry. But there was a play at ASU West that I went to audition for, and essentially it was a bunch of the theater program students who had wrote plays and they needed student members to audition for them. And one of the plays that was written was about a individual that almost had like a Fresh Prince quality to him, right? Like he was this kind of rebellious young man who was living with, I can't remember if it was his uncle or his dad, or it was his dad, right? And like he wanted something that his dad wasn't going to give him. So I'm going to read for the part at 24, and I'm like, yo, like clearly I'm going to go read for like this individual that just seems like he'd be the most fun, right? He's the lead of this play. So I remember walking into the stage, auditorium, or whatever the fuck that room was. And, you had the people who had written the plays, the producers, and you had the theater program director, and they were all there. And the theater program director was like, okay, here's Jay, and he's reading for the part of XYZ young man. And the producer of the play and the casting director were like, no, he's not. He's reading for the dad. And I'm like, fucking dad? I'm 24. Everybody in the room is 18, 19. So you can clearly see the difference, right? And I don't know, and how you handle yourself, how I look compared to everybody else. Second moment at ASU that made me go like, I am misaligned. Like my head is misaligned with where my physical age is at and also where I'm at in life, was we were doing a rehearsal for another play. And as I was reading the script, we somehow got on the topic of age. And at this point, I had turned 25, right? I was 25, and it's probably my sophomore year at ASU. And it was like, yeah, Jay, how old are you? 25. And one of the girls was probably 18. Nah, she's probably like 19. And she's like,
Oh my God. Like, when I'm 25, kill me. Like,
to her, that was such an ancient age. She couldn't even fathom like being that. And it rocked me back in my seat. And I was just like, holy fuck. Like, I'm not really where I'm supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just made me kind of just like feel off center. Eventually, I just decided I'm going to switch out of my major, which at the time I think was psychology or criminal justice. And I'm just going to pick a major that allows me to graduate the quickest so I can get on with my life, because I'm starting to feel like I'm really behind the curve, which is another interesting thing about the military. Because like I said, the military did so many great beneficial things for me that I would never say anything negative about it. However, 5 years is such a drastic amount of time that once you're on the other side of it, if you don't go into a particular career field or you haven't set yourself up for something, you can feel like you're behind your peers, especially if you then try and go back and do the things that your peers would have already done, i.e. college. So I went and I got a bullshit degree, and I'll go ahead and tell you what it is because I think it's important to put names on bullets. So when I say the next part, you understand what I'm saying. So I ended up getting a degree in communications because it was the fastest way to get up at ASU and what I thought would be jumping into an actual career path. And it's funny because in middle school, high school, one of the things that they told us is like, hey, you can study whatever you want to study, follow your passions, follow your interests, but please just don't study communications. Like, they told us that through my entire journey of, middle school, high school. And I still ended up studying communications. And you'll meet people in life who will tell you like, hey, it's a degree, you got a job. At least you did the damn thing.
shut up.
Shut the hell up. No, it's not a degree. I don't know I can't tell you anything that I learned from the degree, and I can tell you it's not going to set you up for anything. Yeah, I got a job, but it wasn't because of the damn degree. It was because of 1, luck, 2, chance, 3, connections. That was it. It had nothing to do with my degree from ASU. Now, so I'm saying that to say, please, Lord God, don't fucking get a degree in communications. It serves you zero purpose. Or if you do, get a minor in something. I don't care if it's a science, if it's government, if it's something tangible. Do not just study communications. Anyway, graduated from ASU, right? And now we're looking at where I'm at now in my educational journey, because I started doing a MBA program in the fall of 2024. Yeah, 2024. And it's funny because I went back to ASU to do it. But as I was taking the program, and it was an online program, and I was like, sitting in on the lectures, and I made it through, I think, 3 classes. I took 3 classes. And by the end of the 3rd class, I was like, this isn't for me. And how I knew it wasn't for me is that when people would talk about the projects or would talk about the lessons or would talk about their own personal experiences, there was so much passion and joy in what they were saying. Like, they were really interested in the subject matter. And I was interested in it from a knowledge perspective, like, oh, that is a fascinating thing to know, but not in a perspective of, oh, I can't wait to dive into that or to study that or share it. And it was one of those things that comes from life lessons, because I went for the MBA program I applied in my 30. Yeah, when I was 30. So it was like one of those things where I was like, I recognize when you're in a room that you just don't belong in. And you only get that experience having gone in several rooms where you're just like, oh, I really gel with these people that are around me. Like, I feel the same energy and the same love for whatever it is we're doing, versus I'm in the same room and everybody seems to be on the same wavelength. And I'm the one person that's like, this shit is boring. There's nothing here for me. So I ended up taking a pause and just going like, I need to reevaluate what it is I want out of my life, academically speaking. Which led me to doing a lot of research, at least 6 months more worth of research of just trying to figure out what schools were offering, what was my interest, still trying to narrow down on like what it is I wanted to go into. And then I found a program that matched up exactly with the things that I do as a hobby, the things that I find fun, the things that I find fascinating, the things that I want to study. And so I applied. And it was so interesting, right? Because I was at a point now where I had applied to I've done the MBA program. I also was going to do a master's in marketing. And then I think I was going to do a master's in, what was the other one? I think it was business management. So at this point, like, I've had to ask people for several hundred letters of recommendation. I've had to write several statements of purpose and just all kinds of shit to apply to these programs. And so, like, I'm kind of at the end of my rope of wanting to do the application process, but also of asking people to, hey, write me another recommendation letter so I can submit it for this program. And so I was like, this is it, man. Like whatever I pick next has got to be something I absolutely love because I'm not doing this again. Thankfully, as I was going through the application process, because it was something I actually valued, it was fun to put together the reel, to put together the scripts, to put together the statement, like, because it was so aligned with who I am that by the end of it, I was like, oh, that wasn't even work. And this is how I know I'm heading in the right direction. So I say that to say that I ended up getting into NYU, and I'll be starting in the fall of 2025 with my master's program. And it's so funny, right? Because again, you go from that 19-year-old kid who was, or let's go even further back, 14-year-old kid who was sitting in a classroom in Germany, looking outside when he should be paying attention to his English teacher, going like, I can't wait to go to college. I can't wait to, do the 4-year experience and like really invest in a community. And I think that's something else that 14-year-old was really interested in, is he was tired of moving. He was tired of starting over. He was tired of starting to build, or trying to build new connections. He just wanted to be at a place for the first time in his life where he could, for 4 years, just be around the same people, go through the same experiences, and come out the other side, like feeling like an actual part of a community instead of a visitor to it. Fast forward, and now I'm starting the master's program, and it's not at all what that kid wanted, because obviously, for one, it's an online program. Like I'm at the point now in my life and stage and career where I can't just dedicate a whole day to being in a classroom. So I needed something with the flexibility of online, but it is still nice to be able to look back at that kid and be like, it's not exactly what you wanted. I don't know how you would feel about the journey we went on, because clearly it was not what you planned. But hey, we are going to NYU, which in a million years you would have never thought was possible, was something that you would have done. And so I hope that kid in me is happy about that. And so to wrap this up, because we've been talking for a hot minute now, I just want to say, especially for the military kids out there, take stock and control of your life, which is so hard to tell 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid that when you're in the system of the military and you're constantly shuffled around, it is so easy to get lost in the cracks. Not maliciously by your parents, not maliciously by the school, but when you're a face amongst hundreds and you're plucked and put in another system, and they've already been dealing with hundreds of kids, you can slip through. And if you're not willing to raise your hand and be like, hey, I need help, you're going to find yourself on a journey that wasn't the journey you had planned. And I think that's true for everybody, right? Like nobody actually gets to go the path. Very few people get to go the path they think they're going to go. But like you're going to find yourself so far off what you know your journey to be is, that when you look up, if you're fortunate enough to look up, you might even find yourself questioning who you are. So I think it's really important, especially like I said, for military kids, to just like really take control of your life. And also to the military parents, right? Like I said, one of the biggest things I would say to any military parent, one of the things that I've always thought if I was to ever have kids, obviously I'm not going to be in the military, but if I were to be in the military, is once your kids start getting to that high school age, stop. Whatever you need to do, whatever you need to sacrifice, let them kids go to high school and like go through the actual process so that they're not so kind of, I don't know the word. I think other military kids know what I'm talking about, but you're just kind of, you're off just a little bit. You know what? I got to add this last part too, because I completely forgot. It's also interesting to see the mindset that has changed, right? Because at the time when I was looking at going into college, right, which was 2012, that was still the mindset. You did your high school, you went to college, you got a good job. Now things have shifted and changed so much drastically that you really don't even need college. Like, so when I also say to military kids, like, take stock of your life, that is not to say that taking stock of your life means like, oh, I need to know what college I'm going to, because as we see, college really doesn't mean the same thing. If you're not going there to be a doctor, you're not going to be there a lawyer, you're not going to be an engineer, be careful in what it is you're going there for, right? Like, I think more importantly, college is about social connections, is about building a network than anything else, right? And if that's the case, if that's what you know you're going for, cool. Take stock of knowing that's why you're going there. Hopefully you're not going there with the idea of I'm going to study art history and go be Indiana Jones, because like that's where the disconnect has become. The return on investment for college has become minimal at best, unless you're studying one of those things that I named. Like if you're not going to school for a specific path, then know you're going there for connections, which I do think is very, 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 very valuable, more valuable than anything else, right? Like that is what's going to get you a job nowadays. I see it time and time and again. The higher up I go, the more I'm like in the rooms. Who you know trumps what you know 9 times out of 10. That's it.